The best and maybe the cheapest way for the Halos to upgrade this team is going to be through the trade market, but they might have to give up players that they're really excited about.
You are Locked On Angels, your daily Los Angeles Angels podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day, and the #1 sports podcast network in all the land. Jeff Passan wrote an article about possible trade candidates for each team in baseball, who they should target this offseason, and there were 4 players that he suggested that the Angels should pursue. So today, we're going to share those names of those players. We're going to tell you about them and what it might take to acquire that player to play on the Angels in 2026. Before we talk about the Angels, we want to thank our sponsor, FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the FanDuel app today.
Thanks for being here for this episode of Locked On Angels, where it's your team every day. You've got the Frisch brothers here with you, a.k.a. the Super Halo Bros. My name is Jon, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother Jon.
Mike, we're just a few days away from the winter meetings that start on Sunday. You know, everybody kind of gets in on Sunday, doesn't really do a lot of stuff, but expect some news over the next weekend and the 4 days after that. So that'll be exciting to talk about. But before we get there, got to talk about some possible Angels trade targets, guys that they could be targeting on the market. Now, Kiley McDaniel and Jeff Passan wrote this article for ESPN listing about 25 players that could be traded. And the Angels were targets for 4 of them. So we're going to talk about those 4 players today, starting with, and I looked this up, Kris Bubic, Mike, from the Royals. He's a left-handed starting pitcher.
Yeah, thanks for that pronunciation, because I was going to ask if I had it right. So Passan wrote about Bubic, and he said he's a former first-round pick, finally broke out last year, 2025. He earned an all-star bid. Johnny had a sub-3 ERA, and he had the peripherals to match. All of his underlining numbers were really good. And then he suffered a shoulder injury and didn't pitch until about August, and pitched in some September games as well.
Didn't pitch in August or September, actually.
Yep, yeah. Got to read that right. It didn't pitch in August or September. Any deal for Bubic is going to be dependent upon his health. Now, Kansas City might have to tap into their rotation to get what they need for their team. And what they need is some outfield help, which the Angels do have. They have outfielders. We'll get to that in just a moment. And there's a lot of scouts that believe, including Jeff Passan, who's a writer, he said that the best combination for a trade might include Bubic, and then you can get an outfielder. And he's somebody who has a combination of performance and he's got some affordability, although there are some questions about his health. Jon, this is an interesting trade candidate. Can you give us a bit of a scouting report before we talk about what it might take and about his health?
Yeah, he's got a slider that he added in 2025 between the fastball, changeup, and the sweeper. Remember, slider's got a little bit more bite than the sweeper, so almost not quite a cutter. Some people throw a slider and it looks like a cutter, but it's a true slider. And then the sweeper's a little more sweepy, I guess you could say. It did make him look like a frontline pitcher for 20 starts, according to the scouting report. And even as his fastball velo decreased a tick due to longer outings, not the same kind of pitcher as Cole Reagans, who's also a lefty, but he's in a pretty similar situation. He's going from being a reliever to a starter with Kansas City. And we've seen Kris Bubic as both a reliever and a starter against the Angels in the past. Reagans posted a 4.9 WAR in the season after he went from relieving to starting, and he got 4th place in the AL Cy Young finish in 2024. Remember, the Rangers dealt Reagans to the Royals after using him as a reliever so that they could get Aroldis Chapman. Worked out because they won the World Series that year. But then Reagans gets to start in 24 and 25. Is a stud. I love this guy. He's always a fantasy pick in my book. And so, again, Kris Bubic is kind of following that same path, Mike, of moving from being a reliever to a starting pitcher. Not impossible with the Angels, considering they did that with Jose Soriano, and that was a huge success. Now, according to Jeff Passan, he predicts the chances of Bubic getting traded at 30%. He said he fits the Mets, the Orioles, the Rangers. Rangers would certainly love to have a Royals pitcher back in the fold. The Giants, the Diamondbacks, the Padres, and the Angels. So a lot of teams listed there as possibilities and possible landing spots for Kris Bubic.
Yeah, that's a stiff competition, and some of those teams have some great prospects that they could give. The big question, though, is the Angels, if they want to make a trade here, it would have to be perhaps for an outfielder. Jon, I like Bubic. I like that he had a great year last year. I'm a little bit nervous about the health because let's say they trade for him. That's 3 pitchers now that we're crossing our fingers and hoping they work out. Now, what I really find fascinating, though, is that some of the talking heads on MLB Network and some baseball people are saying that the pitchers that the Angels have acquired via trade or signed, Alec Manoah, Grayson Rodriguez, and potentially if they get a Kris Bubic or somebody of that kind, these are the types of moves that they need to make, and these are the types of moves that I think benefit the Angels, but also benefit the player, because the Angels aren't in the race technically, but if these guys work out, then they could be in the race, right? But it's a lot of coulda, woulda, shoulda. The other thing that really frustrated me about MLB Network yesterday is Harold Reynolds said that Artie likes to spend money, and he's pulled the reins back a little bit because they just haven't worked out. Harold, you're not watching this team like we are every day. You
talk about the top level, the toppest of the top level view of the Angels, right?
Yeah, you are incorrect. It felt like state-run media from the MLB Network. So I digress. Jon, I like Bubic. I'm nervous about his health, and I do think that it would probably cost the Angels. And in fact, each of the trades that we talk about potentially on this show, I think it's going to cost the Angels more than what maybe the Angels think, or maybe what Angel fans think. Don't you agree?
I agree with that, because the Royals are looking for some power, and they're also looking for some consistency apart from Bobby Witt and Michael Garcia and Salvi Perez and Vinny Pasquantino, right? Those are the guys that you can count on in the Royals lineup. Outside of that, and I looked this up, they as outfielders go, Royals outfielders hit just .219 with a .617 OPS and a 70 weighted runs created plus. So they are looking for somebody who's a proven corner outfield bat. And Mike, I think that points to somebody like Jo Adell. Now, he's not going to bring the batting average, maybe in a different season, maybe in a different change of scenery, or maybe even with the Angels this year, maybe that batting average does climb. You've often said that you could spare a little Jo Adell power for a little bit more contact, a little bit more batting average, that sort of thing. And so I think if they're going to trade somebody as valuable as Kris Bubic and what he's able to offer, it's going to take that level of a Jo Adell. Now, Jo Adell's got 2 more years with the Angels so far. But here's the thing. I kind of wonder, considering you've got Cole Reagans, Michael Wacha, Seth Lugo, all going to be in the rotation for the Royals next year. Listen to the number of guys that they have to be in the rotation next season. They have those 3 for the Royals. They've got Kris Bubic, that's 4. Noah Cameron, remember him? 5. Stephen Kolek, Ryan Bergert, Bailey Falter, who they got from the Pirates, and Luandir Avila. So let's see. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different guys who can all compete as starters. Obviously, 3 of those are going to be locks for the rotation. So maybe it doesn't have to be Bubic, Mike. Maybe it doesn't have to be him if the Royals need to pitch from their trade from their starting pitching depth. I don't see this happening, but I wonder if a Jorge Soler reunion with the Royals with a prospect. The problem with the Royals is they need guys who are able to do this now, right?
Yes.
They're in a winning window. They were just there a year ago. They extended Bobby Witt. Cole Reagan's got an extension, all that stuff. So they're ready to do this thing. Do the Angels have the players to supply what they need other than Jo Adell? I don't think so. And I think that's the issue the Angels are running into. I had a great conversation with Everydayer Chris, I think in our DMs on Instagram. And he was talking about trading Jo Adell at the peak of his value.
Yeah.
And I said, listen, I don't think that trading him at the peak of his value is the wrong move. However, I worry about what comes after Jo Adell. You still got Neto, you got Shonwell, you got Trout, sort of. You're really counting on Ohapi to step up. You're really counting on Christian Moore at second base. Right now, it's just with all the issues the Angels have, I think getting rid of an offensive bat like Jo Adell, who's solidly in right field this season, it's not going to be him moving around. I think once you give him up, especially after trading Taylor Ward, I don't know where you go from there offensively. So that's concerning to me.
He's the best piece, and he'll probably get brought up every time a conversation for a trade happens with the Angels, and we'll probably bring him up in the next few segments as well, because he is the best piece. But I don't think you can trade him. And you're right. He's the offensive threat in this lineup. You've got Mike Trout, but Mike Trout's not Mike Trout. And he needs a couple of extra pieces around him. And if you do get rid of a Jo Adell, then you're really relying on some of the guys to have bounce back seasons. Now, could they? Absolutely. And we hope so. We love Ohapi. We love seeing him thrive. But you're going to have a really great season from Neto and from Shonwell, and you're going to have to really count on Christian Moore if they don't make those moves on the infield, which at this point, we're not sure what the Angels will do because they haven't really made significant signings. They've made a trade, and then they've signed a player that they're hoping would be right and maybe be in the starting rotation. If he does get right, everything's great with Alec Manoah. If Grayson Rodriguez is healthy, everything's great with Grayson Rodriguez. In fact, Manoah has had better numbers than Grayson Rodriguez. So that could be a boon for the starting rotation, but it's all what if. Now, we've talked about run prevention. I've spoken about that a lot. And I think that getting pitchers is going to really help with that. However, you still got to score runs, right? And so I think what's going to happen a lot in the conversation is people will throw out, well, what about Jorge Soler? We have to remember he had a terrible year, and he's got $13 million connected to him this season. And will the Royals
he did have his best season in Kansas City, though. So find something again, right?
Right. And so maybe it is a Jorge Soler, and you connect somebody to him, like a Chapman or a Bachman or maybe a Silseth or somebody like that. I don't know if that would be enough incentive for the Royals to do this. Also, because you listed all of those starting pitchers, I just don't know if Bubic is going to demand a significant haul because he's been hurt, and that might actually benefit the Angels if they do want to bring him in.
Yeah. So again, there doesn't really seem to be a clear path and a clear connection to the Royals and Kris Bubic, and that's a big part of today's conversation, not just with Bubic and the Royals, but the rest of the guys that we're going to be talking about. What do the Angels have to offer? What are the circumstances of the other teams in order to address their needs? We all know what the Angels' needs are, but in return, those teams are going to want their needs addressed as well. And beyond Jo Adell, and a big question mark around somebody like Soler, which you would have to attach some pieces to. I don't know that this is the deal that the Angels can make. It's another lefty as well, and you've already got Kikuchi and Detmers plugged for the rotation. So that's another consideration to make. Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Coming up, we're going to get into the other 3 potential trade targets listed by ESPN. And can the Angels address the needs of those teams? We're going to talk about all of that coming right up.
Soccer fans, the World Cup is coming back to North America for the first time since 1994, and with 48 teams, this is the biggest one ever. Now, getting tickets for that is going to be really difficult unless you have the Game Time app. They are giving the fans that want to be there the advantage to snag some seats. With Game Time, you can track prices in real time. You can get alerts when seats open up, and you can buy tickets the moment that they hit the app. It puts the power back in your hands and makes going to the World Cup realistic instead of impossible. You just pull up the app. The layout makes it so simple to scroll through, to see the matchups, to see where the seats are, what the cost might be. You're going to pick a game, tap a section, and have your tickets locked in within minutes. No confusion and no hunting for fine print, because when you buy those tickets, the price you see is the price that you're going to pay. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets for the World Cup matches and every match, every concert, every event. Just use Game Time. Download it right now, create an account, and let us hook you up. Use our promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Again, download the app, create an account, use our promo code LOCKEDONMLB, get $20 off your first purchase. Is that the Zuzuflela, or is that what it's called?
Vuvuzela.
Zuzuflela. That's funny. Swipe, tap, ticket, and go. Game Time.
This is the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day, and the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 sports podcast network out there. Hey, we've got something really exciting that we're leading up to, and you're going to hear all about it on Monday. It's a league-wide initiative, and Locked On Angels is going to be part of it, and we can't wait to tell you all about it on Monday. So stay tuned for that. And wherever you check out Locked On shows, they're going to have some exciting news as well. Check us out wherever you listen to podcasts. Of course, if you're watching or listening, come on over to YouTube, get in the comments section. We'd love to hear from you there. And hit us up on social media at Locked On Angels, at Super Halo Bros, because you don't know what kind of breaking news there's going to be. So we got to stick around and stay in touch with us, because we'll, of course, share our reaction to any breaking news that comes out about our Halos.
Jon, you've been talking about this pitcher for the last couple of years here on Locked On Angels, and in fact talked about him on your GM episode. It was a name that Jeff Passons brought up in his article about who the Angels could potentially target as a trade candidate and maybe acquire, and that is Mitch Keller, who pitches for the Pittsburgh Pirates. He's 29 years old, and if he is moved, the Pirates would like to get a bat. So that's kind of the theme for the first two teams, with the Royals and with the Pirates. They need a bat. They want an everyday player. Now, there's a hefty salary connected to Mitch Keller, $55.7 million for the next 3 seasons. So what Passan said is that you may not need to have a collection of prospects to get him, because you are taking that entire salary on for the next 3 years. So it may not take that much. We'll talk about that in a minute. But Jon, give us a scouting report on Mitch Keller.
Yeah, he ranked 6th in baseball in innings pitched over the past 3 seasons. 548 2/3 innings pitched. Average velocity on the fastball and sinker, but he's got a great sweeper. He, according to Passan and Kylie McDaniel, they say he's a number 3, number 4. They say that he's predicted to get traded at a 60% clip. And I agree with that. I think he's going to be traded one way or another. Would I like to see him land in Anaheim? I certainly would. Mike, I brought him up on my GM episode, and there's a couple of reasons why.
Yeah.
4 straight seasons of 29 starts or more. Last year, 176 2/3 innings pitched, a 6.8 walk rate, 2.6 walks per 9. Again, in terms of run prevention, this is not a guy putting guys on base for free.
Yeah.
Here's something that I pointed out on my GM episode, and I just want to reiterate once again. Mitch Keller tied Yoshinobu Yamamoto with 484 called strikes in 2025, 17th among all qualified starting pitchers. And he has a 60% first pitch strike rate, second only to Yusei Kikuchi.
Sign me up.
In the Angels rotation.
I love first pitch strikes.
Yeah. His FIP is lower than his ERA, so his fielding independent pitching is actually lower than the ERA, which suggests that maybe the defense let him down a little bit behind him.
Yeah.
But again, Mike, that 60% first pitch strike rate, we've talked for years about how the Angels need to throw strikes. And so for me, Keller solves a lot of problems for the Angels rotation, especially eating up those innings and giving you quality innings, not just, not Carson Fulmer kinds of innings eating. Not to dump on Carson Fulmer, but this is a guy who is a starter, and certainly can provide you length in any start. And again, he would be one of the only few guys in the rotation to hit 180 plus in a season. The only other is Yusei Kikuchi, and that was this past year where I think he pitched 178 innings. So that's what I really like about Mitch Keller, Mike.
Yeah. Now they want a bat, maybe an outfield bat. Jon, I think this team, and you brought it up on your GM episode, I think that this team with the Pirates, it would make sense if Jorge Soler was a part of the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
But what about Matthew Lugo? Matthew Lugo is the type of player that is on the cusp, right?
Yeah.
And if he was on the A's or the Rays or maybe the Pirates, he would be in the starting outfield. I actually really like Matthew Lugo. I think he's got that clutch gene. He showed that early last year and then kind of got lost a bit, but that's part of the growing process, right? He does probably have some more time in the minor leagues before he is a significant part of the team. But I wonder if Matthew Lugo would incentivize this trade. And I wonder, correct me if you think I'm wild here, if a 1-for-1 would work because the Angels are taking on $55 million over the next 3 years, about $20 million a year. And you are getting Matthew Lugo, who is going to make the league minimum.
Yeah.
And he's already proven that somewhat can hit major league pitching. Am I out of my mind thinking 1-for-1, or is it going to have to be a 2-for-1 deal?
I think it would need to be a 2-for-1 deal because the Pirates don't have to make this deal, right?
Yeah.
They don't have to make it with the Angels. They could certainly go and shop around and see what other teams are willing to give.
True.
And so I didn't even mention what Passan said about which teams would be a good fit for Mitch Keller. It's the Rangers, the Astros, Angels, A's, and Mets. So I think that that's significant as well. Again, more competition there. But when it comes to Mitch Keller, Mike, the reason why I thought Soler would get it done, I also added $8 million and a prospect in my GM episode because I wanted to bring Soler's salary down to $5 million, which is what Andrew McCutchen has been making with the Pirates the last couple of years. He's not on the team. Tommy Pham and McCutchen were the only ones really providing the offense when the Pirates needed it. I think that's where I worry about a Matthew Lugo because I think the Pirates need somebody experienced. I think they need the veteran. And I think Soler, I don't know, kind of being the big dog in that lineup that's got, some of the like O'Neal Cruz and Brian Reynolds. Those are the guys that the Pirates need to be counting on. They just haven't stepped up. They haven't provided the offense that the Pirates need. And so I think that's a significant part of the conversation is bringing in somebody experienced. Now, maybe you could get it done with Lugo and Soler because then you add more than one bat.
Yeah.
Lugo's the kind of player that I think the Pirates do like, and I could see him stealing a lot of bases. I could see him playing every day, which is also another issue that I think Lugo has is just let that guy play every day, whether it's in the minors or the majors. I think it would be a really good fit for the Pirates. So I'm not saying you're wrong. I just don't think a 1-for-1 for Lugo would get it done. But maybe if you include two bats and swap them with Mitch Keller, that might be able to get the job done.
It felt wrong when I said it. That's why I asked. The next player that Passan mentioned is another pitcher. Notice a theme here. Sandy Alcantara from the Marlins. Now, he returned from Tommy John surgery, was kind of so-so. He wasn't really great. That kind of affected his trade deadline market last year. And he is at $17.3 million this year with a $21 million club option for next year. Teams right now are not like clamoring for him. And so it's really it's ambiguous as to what might actually be given up for him. But scouting report still kind of good, Jon, because he pitched a lot last year, had a 74 and 2/3 innings, up and down season for him, but seemed to kind of catch a good rhythm as the season went on.
Yeah, 174 2/3 innings after Tommy John surgery kept him out in 2024. Like that's a reliable guy right there. Power sinker, about 97. He's had a killer changeup.
Yeah.
And I think that's the key, right? You've got the changeup and the sinker moving in the same direction, right? They're moving down. However, one's coming in at 97, the other's coming in at 89. And I looked at his whiff rate on the changeup. It was incredible over the last couple of years. And then just coming back from Tommy John in 2025, everything was just a little bit down, Mike. And again, I love the idea of Sandy Alcantara, but I think it's two things that kind of hold this up for me, which is it's another question mark of how's this guy going to perform. Now he's got a year behind him after Tommy John.
Yeah.
And I think that he's going to have an electric season in 2025. I think the Marlins hold on to him. In fact, they put him at a 30% chance of getting traded. Yuri Perez is also in that conversation in terms of getting traded. Or I'm not sorry, not Yuri Perez. I think Edward Cabrera is the one that the Marlins would be looking to trade.
Oh, okay.
The most valuable part. But I think that they ride with Sandy until at least the trade deadline, because his stock can only really go up from here. I don't think he's going to be worse than he was in 2025. In fact, I think 2 years removed from Tommy John surgery, I think he's going to get back to somebody that we've come to know very well in Sandy Alcantara. So, Mike, question for you, Keller or Sandy? What do you say?
I would say Keller, because I think that you could probably get him at a lesser cost than for Alcantara. Yeah. And I think that you're right. The Marlins will probably hang on to Alcantara until the trade deadline to help his cost rise. He's a bit more dynamic than Mitch Keller is. The thing I like about both of them, John, innings, and they're quality innings. They pitched a lot. And with the way that the Angels are right now, I think you got to lean in the Mitch Keller direction, because you need another innings eater, but a quality innings eater. Mitch Keller is a right-handed, better version of Yusei Kikuchi. He's going to be out there. He's going to pitch. He's going to do well. He's not going to get wild like Kikuchi did. He's not going to walk a lot of guys like Kikuchi did. But I think that he'll be somebody that's going to eat a lot of innings for you, and consistent innings. Yeah, he's a number 3 or number 4, but with the Angels, he could be a number 2. He could be at the top of this rotation, because he's got the innings behind him and he's got the experience behind him.
He certainly was hyped for a long, long time with the Pirates, and he showed flashes of really great stuff. So it's one of those situations where I'll take the bulk and I'll take the reliability, and anything he can provide you past that, which will be quality, I think is a very, very good thing for the Angels to consider.
While you're watching football on Sunday, you need to have the FanDuel app open, because they're making live betting in the moment so much fun. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. It's so much fun to use FanDuel and watch the game, especially if your favorite team's not playing. Then you can just have fun betting on both teams. Live betting is fun too, because you can combine it for a same game parlay, or you can maybe make a decision and think that this guy's going to get hot in the fourth quarter. FanDuel lets you jump in on every moment and keeps you locked in on every snap, every drive, and every possibility. So get right in the middle of the action this season with FanDuel. Start at FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you.
One of the last guys that Kylie McDaniel and Jeff Passan talked about in their possible trade targets for the Angels was Alec Bohm, Mike, somebody that you brought up for your GM episode. In fact, I believe you wanted to trade Taylor Ward and receive Alec Bohm. Did you have somebody else part of that trade?
Sam Bachman.
Sam Bachman, that's right. That's right. So kind of a 2-for-1 deal there. Now, Bohm could be dealt depending on what happens with the Phillies. Can they bring Kyle Schwarber back? Will they pivot to Alex Bregman? That Bregman and Philly just feels like, yeah, that's going to happen. That's just kind of feels obvious, doesn't it?
Yeah.
If one of those things happens, especially Bregman, I think that Bohm is definitely going to get traded. Now, if the Phillies need to move somebody, then Bohm is probably going to be the most likely one to move. He's got 1 year of control left at $10 million or so, depending on what he gets in arbitration. He did regress a little bit in 2025. His walk and strikeout rate, the walk rate fell, the strikeout rate climbed. Power numbers to defense all kind of took a step back. But if he could get back to who he was in 23 and 24, listen to this, 50-plus extra base hits in both 23 and 24, he could be a good bounce-back candidate. Now, Passan and McDaniel say the possibility of him getting traded is at 50%. Teams like the Brewers, the Mariners, the Pirates, and the Angels all make sense for Alec Bohm. What are your thoughts still, even after it's been a few weeks, maybe like a month or so since we did our GM episodes? What do you say?
John, we were the worst team at third base last year. So any upgrade is an upgrade. And that's why I think Alec Bohm should still be considered. Yeah, he had a down year last year, but it wasn't a bad year. The strikeouts were up, the walks were down. That would be concerning, especially moving into this lineup. Jon, I had this wild thought, and I'm going to get ripped apart probably because of this.
Hit me.
But what if the Angels, they fill two needs with one decision?
Okay.
And that is that they do the thing that we kind of feel is unthinkable, and that is they trade Mike Trout.
Jo Adell. Oh, sorry. No. What did you say?
They trade Mike Trout. And they send him to Philly. He's got 5 years left. I think that they maybe pay for one full season, send $30 million, or maybe pay for half of his contract for half of the time. They work out the finances some way. And then they acquire two players. They acquire a third baseman in Alec Bohm, but then they acquire the thing that they've been searching for, and that is a left-handed bat. And they get Brandon Marsh. They bring him back. Brandon Marsh has had some really good numbers.
Yeah.
And his walk numbers, his on-base percentage is actually really good. And you put him back in center field with his buddy Jo Adell. You put whoever you need to in left field, Soler, maybe it's Matthew Lugo, but now you have Bohm at third base. Jon, I know that it might be ridiculous. I don't know what the money would look like. I wonder if you would have to pay for half of Mike's salary. I get it. It's Mike Trout. We love Mike Trout. Perhaps he has a bounce back year, but that's always been the conversation about him. This fills two needs. It gets you out from the entirety of his contract and the weight of his contract. Plus, they're negotiating possibly with Rendon. How does this sound? Am I way off my rocker? Is this MLB The Show and not Locked On Angels? How we talking? How we thinking?
I was going to say, I think Philly fans would love that, but I don't think the Phillies would love that, you know? And I think if they're going to trade Bohm, and if they were to trade Brandon Marsh, that they would explore the market and try to figure out, you know, what the returns could be for both those guys rather than, you know, having those swallowed up into one trade for Mike Trout. But look, Phillies fans would certainly love it. Angel fans would hate it. They're hating on you right now.
I'll take it.
But I'm sure there's some everydayers out there that are like, yeah, trade them.
Yeah.
To do that, I think you would have to pay some of that money down, like you said.
I think so.
It would be the irony of ironies, or would it be coincidence? I don't know. Ask Alanis. But to bring back Brandon Marsh, I would love to have Brandon Marsh back.
Yeah.
But the fact that he was here, and you know, we had the crappy hitting coaches that we had, and then you know the incentive to just hit for power. I'm worried that somebody comes here and that's going to be the narrative again. And then that's going to be who Brandon Marsh is again. And it's really frustrating. As soon as he went to Philly.
Right. So good.
The hitting coach told him how to figure things out. So frustrating for sure. Alec Bohm at third base, like you said, Mike, provides more than the Angels had over there in 2025. And he's somebody we talked about, I believe, last offseason. And the Phillies didn't end up doing anything. You know, unless they get Bregman, I think they run it back with Bohm, honestly, because there was all this Alec Bohm talk last year and nothing happened. And so until the winter meetings happen and maybe they do sign that deal with Bregman, or maybe Bregman goes somewhere else and the Phillies go, okay, I guess it's Bohm.
Yeah.
One more time. And I don't know. He just feels like such a crucial part of that Phillies lineup anyway, even though he did fall off a little bit last year.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't really see him not in that lineup.
Yeah, I can't either. It probably is going to be, they gave a 50% possibility for trade. So half and half. Jon, out of the four names that we mentioned, which one would be traded to the Angels?
Oh, Mitch Keller.
Okay.
For sure. Like that's the most realistic. That's the most attainable. I think that's the easiest one for the Angels to find a way to get it done. I think it needs to happen, Mike. And I know it's not flashy. I know it's not exciting. I would still love to see them sign another starter. But if Mitch Keller is the guy who becomes not the number 5 guy in the rotation, but the 5th guy in this current rotation, I think that would be a very good thing. And on paper, that rotation would look pretty good.
Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Be sure to like and subscribe while you're here. It's the best way to stay updated on all things Angels throughout the offseason.
Hey, be sure you give us a follow on Twitter at Locked On Angels, at Super Halo Bros on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Come on over to YouTube, get in today's comments section for today's show. We'd love to hear from you. Mike, a little controversy stirred up, and it involved us.
Yeah.
Didn't it?
In a world of misinformation, there has been fan council misinformation shared from The Athletic and Evan Drellich. And it was something that when we read it, we went, what? And then the people that were on the fan council with us commented and said, what? And so we're going to share the article with you tomorrow. And then we're going to share what actually happened with the fan council and the discussions and why it was created. All of those things. We did not sell our souls to Major League Baseball. We'll talk about that tomorrow on Locked On Angels.
All right, looking forward to that, and we hope he'll come back and join us. Until then, my name is Jon, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother Jon.
All right, for all you sickos who love this Angels team and all the everydayers who love to watch and listen, we'll see you back here on Friday.
I'm going to hold my fan council memorabilia while we have the show tomorrow.
Exactly.